Hey everyone, welcome to Youth Bombs. I'm Craig,
I'm Carson.
And I'm Olivia.
and we're the voice of young conservatives in Alachua County. In the past week, there's been a controversy between Nancy Mace and Sarah McBride, who is a congresswoman men elect from the Northeast. Essentially, the controversy has focused on bathrooms, as this individual, McBride, is a biological man. That has made many women uncomfortable because he wants to use the women's restroom. So, Olivia, you've done a lot of research into the trans issue. What do you think about this in general, as well as people not using their correct bathroom?
Well, yeah, so this is at like a more politicized level, but I've done a lot of research on gender ideology and the psychology that goes behind transgenderism for an internship research. So I think first and foremost, we have to acknowledge that these people are going through a deep psychological dilemma, and we should treat them, with respect. But with that being said, part of treating someone with respect is just sticking to the reality of the situation. So it is reality that men are men and that women are women. And we can't have biological men go into a women's restroom. Not only does it aid their psychological dilemma and mental illness, but it also poses a threat to biological women. And we've seen that happen, particularly I'm talking about public schools in Virginia.
Absolutely right with that particular county case and the tragic rape that occurred. Carson, what
Exactly.
is your position with this in regards to the Capitol building?
Well, this is like a weird, unique intersection because normally I just defer to property rights, and you can do that in 95, 99 even percent of circumstances. But when it comes to actual federal law, it gets a little more gray. I would say currently my position is that there should be a mandate based on biological sex, just because I can't come up with anything else consistent that makes sense. But I do want to say, just like the entire reasoning behind this policy being implemented was that Sarah McBride is now in Congress, but there's been transgender people in and out of the Capitol. I mean, there are plenty of Congress people who have transgender staff members and that kind of thing. So this was clearly like an opportunistic, in my opinion, it was opportunistic from Nancy Mace to try to just get, her name in the media environment and that kind of thing. And I just overall, these transgender people who are in the Capitol who work there, including McBride, they're all going to be using private bathrooms. They're all going to be in their office using private bathrooms, and so this is just a non-issue. It shouldn't really like have been brought up in this public light. And I, I for all federal ground that's a little different. But the Capitol thing just felt weirdly targeted.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but this is definitely not a non-issue. I mean, we're talking about the principle of it. You allow one biological man to go into a biological woman's bathroom, that sends a message that it's okay, and it's definitely not okay. Um, like for the two core reasons that I stated, it's aiding their illness and their delusion, and two, it's posing a threat to actual women. So, whether it's a political issue or, with the federal, state, or the property rights, the issues that, or the reasons that you stated, is kind of immaterial because we're talking about the principle of it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I again, on federal grounds, it's not something where there's nothing you can really do about it. We need some sort of standard comprehensively for federal grounds. I just think overall, I don't understand, especially because there have been times where this entire issue has been far more front and center than right now. And it does feel targeted at one person. But overall, I understand. We need some sort of general rule or standard for handling these people, and I think biological sex happens to make the most sense. If there was some other standard, I think it would probably require too much government intervention anyway.
The standard is that men shouldn't go into a women's restroom. Um, just point blank. That is how you handle the situation.
Yeah.
And
My concern there with what about these big, burly, we'll call them female to male trans men, like people like Buck Angel. If someone like Buck Angel is visiting the Capitol, should he, she, they, whatever you want to call them, should they go to the men's bathroom or should they go to the women's bathroom?
If it's a woman, then they go to the women's restroom.
I know, but I feel like that would be disruptive, and it isn't the entire point that we're trying to avoid disruption in society.
No, the entire point is that we're trying to implement reality back to these people to help them.
I just feel like that would be very disruptive, and I'm not, I think that would probably be more of a danger to women, or at least make women feel more endangered.
Well, no, because women usually aren't inherently violent towards other women, but men to other men are, and men to other women, particularly are. And what is more of an issue is putting these women through these hormone therapies that make them so physically male they shouldn't be in the first place.
Mhm.
And, think about yourself. If you're older, if you had a daughter, I would like to bet that you wouldn't want a man in there in the restroom with your daughter.
Right, but I also wouldn't want someone like Buck Angel in there, and
But that's a biological woman.
But I
So
still
she's
wouldn't
still
want him in there.
I see
it's
what
not
you
if you get the
mean,
woman.
but I think it would require too complex of a rule at the end of the day to say, well, you look like a man. And
that's what I agree with you guys on. I just think that at the end of the day, you have to handle it with some amount of nuance.
No, the nuance is the reality. The nuance is the reality. You just handle it with the truth.
But you just use the argument that you wouldn't want, I think it is very disruptive to society, but
I think that turning women into men is disruptive to society in the first place. Look, if a woman is a woman, they go to the female restroom. Women aren't violent towards other women, particularly anyways, whether they look more like a man or not. We just know that from reality and truth. So really, I think that people on this issue want to act more nuanced or trying to overcomplicate reality, and it's actually harming people who have gender dysphoria.
I agree with that. And turning to a private scenario, say if we're not looking at a federal building, would you be in favor or oppose having that standard where it's biological sex in the biological bathroom?
No, it doesn't matter what in any building, any circumstance. I think if someone's biologically female, they need to go to a women's restroom, no matter what. If someone's biologically male, they need to go into a male restroom, no matter what. And personally, I know people have different opinions about it, but personally, I think that thinking too deep into it is harming people and just creating an issue out of a non-issue.
Yeah, your proposition is like inherently very big government. What you're saying is we need the government to come in and
no, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Hold on. You're saying the
No,
government
I'm
needs to come
actually gonna stop you right there because you're wrong.
Let me just finish.
No, I'm not. No, I'm gonna stop you right there because you're wrong. It has nothing to do with government. It has to do with morals and ethics. That goes beyond.
But how do you enforce that?
Oh,
I don't think that would be
aid people in the truth. You just aid people in the truth, just individuals, and like how you're overcomplicating the truth. You just don't do that.
Wait, but
you just change.
I'm so lost on what you're saying because we're talking about private businesses. So when it comes to private businesses, you're saying number one, the government should intervene and decide how a private business owner uses their property, and that number two, that it's because of morals and ethics. And I think it's inherently immoral for the government to intervene in that way and determine, and force you to use your private or your private property in a certain way, number one. And number two, I would also say that the free market has been very good at sorting this issue out, that private business owners have been setting their own standards for what bathrooms you need to use, and that they've also added more gender neutral spaces, which is what I think the solution should be in the first place. And, it makes the most sense. I don't understand why. Overall, I don't think it really makes much sense for bathrooms to be gendered. They don't. There's not that much of a protection. If a man wants to follow you into the bathroom, they're going to do it, whether there's a male bathroom, a female bathroom, whatever. But overall, the fact of the matter is, when we're talking about private businesses, we're talking about a private business that has the right to use its property however it wants to. And the government shouldn't come in and say, you need to handle your bathroom usage in this certain way. That makes no sense. It's inherently statist.
No, well, in our system, we do have government interference. I mean, when things are morally incorrect, we have the CPS, Child Protective Services, where we step in and do that. And, You know
Right,
what I
but that
mean? So
involves
there's
children.
things in our society. No, but the point is that it protects that the government does have to step in, and programs issued by the government, by the state, whatnot, do have to step in and protect people. And actually, you're just feeding into the lie of people with gender dysphoria.
But
And you know what? If you had a daughter that went into a women's restroom and a man went in there, I would hope that you would want to protect her and say heck no to that.
okay, I'm not gonna do
At any level.
I'm not gonna do the appeal to emotion because I my point is about private property
But
rights. And
it,
that's as far as it goes. I'm not subscribing to either
but it
side of
isn't.
the
But
gender
it's a
ideology
human
debate.
issue.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
transgender and gender ideology is a human issue, and it does play with people's emotions, and that is a logical approach.
I'm talking
Because
about
of moral
private property.
complex.
Why should the government be involved in the way a business uses its private property, right? Because this isn't about protecting people. No harm has been done to someone else at this point. Just a and frankly, I think it's disgusting. But just a hold on, just a man walking into a woman's restroom, no crime has been committed at that point. Unless the private business owner says you're not allowed to do it.
It's perverted. It's perverted.
But there's no crime.
And the potential can. It's perverted, and the potential can, and that you're aiding people's gender dysphoria even by allowing them to do that.
Okay, but
in my opinion,
the government isn't the one who needs to be there to determine whether what you're doing is perverted or that kind of thing. We don't do that in other situations.
But there's certain things that help protect people, such as like CPS and other social services.
I'm not going
That's
to.
just how our
Can't talk
system
about CPS because CPS involves minors. Minors are not of the age of majority. We're talking about private business owners.
Well, you could have a child in a private business like a restaurant.
Yes, but there's no harm being done to that child. CPS.
I don't think that
harm being
maybe
done to
you
a
just
child.
don't understand. But I don't think you understand the point of the government helping to protect people in certain situations.
But there's no.
Nor do I think that you fundamentally disagree with the morals of gender ideology.
No, it's not about the morals of gender ideology. It's about the morals of seizure of property.
Well, you can't just always think like it's just so black and white. Like, oh, it's about property taxes. You know what I mean? It's like a human issue too.
Okay, but still, at the end of the day, the government has no role there. It's not something the government needs to intervene in because the government, private businesses can determine how their private facilities are used. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else.
I actually go somewhere else just because I don't want a man to go into a women's restroom.
If you don't like the way a private business uses its property, then yes, you should go somewhere else. That's how you vote with your dollar.
I don't think that the woman should have to accommodate in that situation. Like, I think the bathroom is the bathroom regardless of where it is, and we're entitled to that private space.
Okay, you're not entitled to a private bathroom, though. Where does it say in the law or in the Constitution? But it's not about safety. No crime has been committed at this point. And mind you, even if there were gender segregated spaces, it's still like you could still be harmed in a gender segregated space. There is no like logical through line here. There's just it's all based around this idea that because there is a perceived threat, the government needs to protect us from it, which is the same argument that, for instance, people who say we need to mandate the COVID vaccine use.
It's certainly a different issue there because you're forcing someone to inject something and making a fundamental health decision for them, whereas this is preventing a man from entering the woman's bathroom and protecting that space because it's important that we're safe in vulnerable environments, and that's one of the ways that we can do so.
Right, but at the end of the day, it's the same general idea. I'm saying that the government shouldn't intervene to intervene in civil liberty for security, and you're saying that security and the security of our people is worth intervening in people's civil liberties for. Right, that is what this argument at the end of the day boils down to. We're talking about private businesses. And if you believe a private business is not using its property rights to your desired extent or your desired belief or your desired moral system, it is on you then to go somewhere else. And I would not blame you at all if you wanted to go somewhere else. I would not blame you if you find a something as an impediment to you, or as a moral violation or an ethical violation, or however you want to look at it, right? That is perfectly reasonable. It is just that that business owner is allowed to set up their own circumstances and situations and policies around this circumstance. And I don't think the federal government or the state government or any government of any size should be intervening.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying, like with the private business, like just like how private business said, like, oh, like that catering company in Illinois or Indiana didn't want to like bake a cake for
Yeah.
what was it, a gay couple. I totally get that, but like I think of it beyond, like you can't just think so black and white, like, oh, there's private, like I get your argument, it's just private business, but like, and I see where you're coming from, and I agree with you partially, but when I think of the transgender issue, I think of it more than just beyond like the private business. Private businesses is more of a human issue, and the reasons that I listed.
And I understand where you're coming from. I just think that you could boil a lot of things down to a human issue. You could say that, for instance, using private property to build a marijuana dispensary in states where that's legal, that's immoral because marijuana ruins people's lives. You could say that, building a bar is immoral. You could say a wide variety of situations where private property is being used in a certain way is immoral. But at the end of the day, it's still on that private business owner to use their private property in whatever way they see fit. And I don't think the federal government should be intervening.
It may be private, but at the end of the day, there's certain circumstances where the state has to intervene and say, we're going to protect this space in the interest of women and in the interest of men having their own space. I think that it would be hazardous to accommodate the perverts who want to go into the women's restroom, and that further endangers them. But do you have a final comment?
I think at the end of the day, in order, at least for me, in order to be consistent, I have to place a fundamental valuation on individual rights and an individual's right to own property, right? It's life and property, and your right to do whatever you'd like with your life and property. And so if we start making exceptions here or there for this or that, I think that's a slippery slope, and it leads to other policy decisions that may impede on liberty in different ways, just based on that very basic principle. And that's just where I'm coming from.
Gotcha. Well, good discussion. Thanks everyone so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We upload 3 times a week, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Additionally, you can reach out to us at youthbombs@lateralrepublicans.com. Thanks so much, everyone.